Well, hi, welcome to SoCal Insider. I'm Rick Reef. Well, it was a heady weekend for UC Irvine. The Anteaters baseball team was playing in the College World Series in Omaha. And in the big league ballpark in Anaheim, President Obama took to the field to keynote the school's commencement ceremonies. It drew cheers from the grads and their families, but some folks complained about the traffic, the security, and his comments on global warming. Also, firefighters feeling the heat. Orange County's fire chief steps down, but not before hanging on just enough to get another pension, his third. And the City of LA's fire department is coping with its own set of problems. We'll examine those stories and more. But first, the mayor who's suing his own city's police union, claiming the union and its former law firm tried to frame him on a bogus DUI charge. The cops deny any wrongdoing, and they don't want to take the witness stand. Joining me, the mayor of Costa Mesa, Jim Righeimer. Welcome back, Jim.
Good to see you.
Okay, let's set the stage. It's the summer of 2012. You're in heated negotiations with the union, your police union. They're represented by a law firm that brags on its website about how to intimidate public officials and get your way in negotiations. Take us from there.
Well, actually, and I was here that day. And when I left here, I had to go to a public event, and at that public event, it was hot in the summertime, and I left that public event and went over to Scotia Monahan's pub over there in Costa Mesa.
Monahan, who also happens to be on the council. Okay.
And I had 2 Diet Cokes, and I drove home. By the time I got home, I got a knock on the door from a police officer to ask me to come outside because it'd been called in that I'd been drinking and driving. I'd been swerving all over the place. And being an elected official, you can't stand in your house. You gotta go out there because it'll be all over. I went out there. He tested me. He said you were fine. I walked back in my house, knew something was wrong. My wife said the police officer's talking to a man down the street in this car. I ran down the street, confronted the officer and the person took off. Long story short,
swerved around your wife,
by
the way, who's standing in the middle of the street.
Right. And the short version of it is within 24 hours, we found out that that person was a private investigator hired by the law firm that our police union hired to intimidate or to whatever they would do. During that time and after that time, you have to start to realize that this law firm represents 130 police officer associations in California. And that's like the bulk of all of them out there. So when you start to look at contract negotiations and how different cities have different pays and how it's all kind of standardized, you realize there's a bigger chess game going on than a normal city council.
As a result of all this uproar, that law firm no longer exists.
That law firm, once we filed the lawsuit, within 3 weeks, they collapsed under a lot of other issues. But what we're really looking at here is extortion of elected officials. What this private investigator admitted to the Orange County reporter Frank Mickadite was that he sent, not only was he at the bar that I was at, he sent a woman in to try to entrap the other city councilman and the bar owner into doing something inappropriate.
Right, and that councilman, Steve Mensinger, has joined you in a civil suit. And he's saying that you have your complaint, they tried to frame you. His complaint is they put a tracking device on his car?
So when this happened, the district attorney's office got involved. And when they started subpoenaing documents, they've got a computer system from either the official investigator or the Police Officers Association. They had for that had the tracking information of the Mayor Pro Tem's car during the whole campaign for 2 months, every place he went. So now you're looking at a situation where the union that represents your officers had a tracking device put on an elected official's car. You kind of stand back from it and realize that they do this for 130 police officer associations, and now you know why contracts are negotiated that make no sense to the public, but make a lot of sense to the members of the association.
And I do want to get into that more, but first I would like to read what the police union, I invited them to send a representative. Their attorney declined, but he did have a statement. He said that if they did send a statement. He said, Mr. Righeimer and Mr. Mensinger have the right to work within the legal system to hold the law firm and the private investigator accountable. But Mr. Righeimer and Mr. Mensinger do not have the right to sue a police association merely for political gain. Although there was no evidence to suggest that a false DUI report was made, out of respect for the city of Costa Mesa and the people they serve, the Costa Mesa Police Association immediately terminated their relationship with the law law firm at the time of the incident. After nearly 2 years, Mr. Righeimer and Mr. Menzinger have produced no convincing evidence to support any of the claims against the police association. They said that you and Mr. Menzinger have repeatedly rejected requests to meet to discuss the lawsuit and provide information that that they may need to dismiss the association in court, and also that the police, and they did conclude by noting that police officers put their lives on the line every day, and you'd be better served to support the police officers instead of bringing them into litigation.
Well, thank you for the spin and that end part there. From a person who's, my father was a police officer who passed away, my brother today is a police officer who puts a badge and a bulletproof vest on every single day. The issue is not about what they do for us. That's important. We care about it. We're talking about a pension system that is absolutely unsustainable. You cannot retire people at 50 years of age at 90% of pay. Now, with regards to the case, if you want to get into that, they have avoided and gone to court time after time after time to not give a deposition. So when he says we don't have any evidence, they've fought their way through for the last year to go make sure that nobody has to testify whatsoever.
Right.
The judge has stopped that and said you're going to testify. Now they've appealed again. This is not going to end. It's going to get to court, and all we want people to tell the truth. If nothing happened and they didn't do anything, just testify to that.
And just recently, a judge did green light it to let it go forward, but as you said, they are appealing, so it's the process is still moving slowly. Now, at the time, there were some other indications that there were other cities that had negotiations where councilmen were put into compromising positions and everything. We haven't seen this groundswell of people coming forward. In other words, if this is happening elsewhere, why aren't other people coming forward and saying, I was set up?
Well, usually because when extortion works because it's usually true. So when they send a woman in to get you to do something inappropriate, that's not for political campaign reasons. That's during the middle of a negotiations to show you that picture and say, gosh, is that your wife? Who is that? And basically you get somebody in a situation where you've followed them, you figured out their foibles, the things that they might do wrong in their life that they're embarrassed about, and they use that for extortion. Extortion works because it's usually true, and so people don't want to come out. As time goes on, people don't care about those issues. They've had divorces, other things happen. You'll be surprised who starts to come out and say they were extorted.
So you don't think you're going to be the end of the story?
Absolutely not. I think we're just, we are the Watergate break-in. This case is much bigger than us. The FBI is involved in it. It's over 3 counties. This isn't going to go away.
Okay, just briefly, one other thing that you have initiated, this thing called a COIN ordinance. What does that stand for?
Civics, Openness, and Negotiations. And basically what that is that 75 to 80% of every city's budget is your employees. And every other situation in a city, whenever you buy something, you bid for it, it's all a very public process. But negotiations, for some reason, are always done in private. And that wouldn't be so bad because they're negotiations, but the problem is that they'll negotiate for 4 or 5 months. We have no idea what it is. You come to an agreement on a Friday, and you vote for it on a Tuesday, and the public doesn't even know what you voted for.
Okay, so you started this, open negotiations so that citizens can know what each side's offering. And
Correct.
All right, now who else has followed your lead?
Okay, so since we put in place, Beverly Hills has done it, Rancho Palos Verdes has put one in place. The County of Orange just postponed their vote, but they'll be voting in a month for a COIN, which will be big for the county. Fullerton looked at it last night. Once people understand what it is, it's basically just saying, once you've made an offer, and the other side has rejected it or countered it, at least make that offer public so the public sees what you're talking about. Fullerton, as example, was the one that found out at the last second that pensions were being almost 50% increased, and had no idea that was happening. And it almost got through.
Okay, well, Jim, thanks very much for coming on, and we'll be following your case.
All right.
President Obama takes the field at Angel Stadium. That's next. And joining me on this edition of Consider This, Voice of OC Editor-in-Chief Norberto Santana, Orange County Register editorial columnist Joseph Perkins, and PBS SoCal's premier investigative reporter David Nazar. Welcome all. Okay, Norberto, any thoughts on the interview?
You know, openness in labor negotiations is a great thing. Openness in all contracts is a great thing. I think what you'd find for most reporters that are in the trenches, labor officials on the other side of the aisle, is that things like developer contracts, IT contracts, complex things at county, cities, are rarely done in open. And there's a lot of aspects to labor, developer, large contracts essentially. Whenever you're a government or doing these deals, there is an uncomfortable aspect of bringing the public in early in the process.
Actually, I would say one difference with a vendor or a contractor is that basically you're asking for a proposal, they give you their proposal. You're not behind the
That's
doors
not true.
negotiating.
That's not true.
Am I being too naive about
You
how
are
it
being
works?
too naive.
Okay.
For anybody who's covered any negotiation knows that there's tons of things that are going on in closed session. Those documents are being changed all the time, and the public is rarely
Let's
brought
just
into the process.
let's open everything up.
Let's
right?
open
Let
it all
that
up.
sunshine in. Okay, Joseph, President Obama just stopped off in the Southland, spent some time in Laguna Beach raising money, then went to Anaheim for a commencement speech. What a day for UCI. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I was proud of UCI for securing the president. I think whether one is Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, you've got to be grateful when the president decides that he's going to bless one of your universities by appearing. That being said, the president started off saying that, well, this message is not going to be about policy. And then he proceeded to talk about climate change for the 2/3 of his speech. Then he said, I know that this is a commencement, but then he, I thought, was inappropriately political in his remarks, kind of criticizing Republicans, saying that they are beholden to extremists, to radicals within their party, saying that the Tea Party
Did he actually use the Tea Party?
He actually invoked the Tea Party. You know, almost killed the entire U.S. space program. So I don't think that was a good analogy he wanted to use.
David, what do you think about the president talking some policy and politics?
Well, I'm going to tell you in just a second, but I do have a question for Joe. Joe, just out of curiosity, so if President Obama said, the Republicans are great, they're doing great on immigration, I was wrong in Benghazi, would he have been appropriate there, just out of curiosity?
Yes, he would have. No, no, really. Talk to the graduates about what the future holds before them. Just, you know, it's an unspoken rule that you keep politics out of commencement addresses, especially when you are the nation's commander-in-chief. That sounded like a speech that he could have given to a Democratic National Committee meeting.
And in answer to your question, I have to say I do agree completely with Joe. You have to be so proud, firstly, that there is a president and a sitting president who speaks to your university. And it was really a beautiful scenario when you think that Lyndon B. Johnson, 50 years ago, in front of, what, 10, 12,000 people in a farm field, was speaking to the first class at UCI. He was the guy that was propelling civil rights agenda, and then 50 years later, how proud are we that we have a black president in office and we voted him in? So we've established that, but I do agree with Joe, it's not the proper place, whether it's climate change or immigration, whatever the case may be. And granted, these politicians will take any opportunity they can to stump for their agenda, but I do believe they should have given a speech on hope and inspiration in their future. I wasn't happy with the fact that it was so much about climate change, whether you're for or against it.
Okay, well, I will say, though, from UCI's standpoint, wow, that was a great promotion for them. They are one of the leading universities when it comes to atmospheric science and all that. So regardless of the controversy, it's great that they had that they got that focus. Now, they are paying, as I understand it, a little over $1 million. Artie Moreno enjoyed the day. His Angels are out of town, and, you know, he got $1 million because you have to pay something to host something that big. Thing. But do you think it was worth it for the university?
Well, I mean, I think that if anything, it shows why Angel Stadium, that type of a venue, is important. Whenever you're having large events like that, you do have to get lots of people in and out. Well, is it worth $1 million? That's up to the you know, to the university. Frankly, I don't have any problem with politicking all day long. The president is a political figure, and if he wants to politic all day long, let him politic all day long.
It's more for you to write if he's politicking all day long.
I mean, that's the whole point.
Can I add one thing? Because I agree with Norberto. I do not have a problem with him politicking.
You just agreed with Joe, and now you're agreeing with...
I like both of them, and I agree with both of them. What I do have a problem with, all kidding aside, is as an Angelino who lives right in West Los Angeles, President Obama seems to be here every few months with a tin cup raising money, and that's where you've got to draw the line. He's always staying in Beverly Hills or Century City, in that area, which is a thoroughfare to either downtown or Santa Monica. We shut the entire city down when he is here, and that's when it gets excessive, and that's where I think we've got to say, you know what, he is tying up traffic, he's putting motorists in danger, half of the 405 freeway shuts down. So in that context, let him politic at a commencement speech, but stop the fundraising here in LA. He's killing me, man.
Well, what got me was him leaving Orange County and going to Palm Springs, where he played golf while, frankly, you know, things were going awry.
Joe, if you're in Palm Springs, you're going to play golf, aren't you?
Not if I'm commander-in-chief.
You don't think the command, he needs a little time off, doesn't he? I mean, all work and no play makes a president who might be a little on edge.
Well, when I see him grow the economy,
that's what I do not begrudge him playing golf. He played 9 holes. He's in Palm Springs. He only played 9 holes, for gosh sake.
You know, we've got crises going on around the world, and I don't think that when we're seeing pictures of Iraqis being beheaded by terrorists that you want to be being
I
shown
don't begrudge
on
the
TV.
president. He's got to exercise. You know, George Bush used to go out running, and you know, that was perfectly fine. 9 holes of golf, gosh, you're in Palm Springs. He only played 9 holes. I'm impressed that he didn't.
Well, be fair, Rick. You're a golf fanatic, an insane golf fanatic. You're always on the golf course. I can never get a hold of you. I'm trying to do the work. You're on the golf course. Now, if you were playing basketball, would that have been okay, or is just golf okay?
No, basketball's fine too.
You know,
And who plays basketball?
The tape of him working out in the gym, I was with that. That was fine.
Okay.
We want our commander
Michelle
to be in
doing
good
her
shape.
arms and
her
everything.
her
Okay,
curls.
let's. We're getting a little silly, so let's get back on track here. Norberto, fires in the house, problems in Orange County and L.A. In Orange County, the fire chief just stepped down. What's that about?
You have an entire fire agency that's almost coming apart at the seams. I mean, this was set up in the wake of the 1994 bankruptcy. It's an odd situation for a JPA, essentially, not a county fire department.
JPA is?
The Joint Powers Authority. So it's essentially, it's its own regional fire agency. However, its board of directors is 24 city council members from the entire region. The problem that they have there, and they recently had a management partners report that said there are problems, a lack of accountability at all levels of this agency. The fire chief obviously is held accountable for that. This fire chief, by all accounts, has done a horrible job. And again, 24 Republicans who are heeing and hawing about public pensions all day long allowed this gentleman, who has done nothing but, frankly, a not very stellar job, to basically now go and get his 3rd pension. So it's again, the interesting...
He has one from Contra
He has one from,
Costa.
I understand he has one from Tucson that he had. He had one from Contra Costa when he came.
Orange
and
County.
now he's going to have a 3rd one
And they
here.
let him hold on to that job just long enough so that he gets that pension. They could have cut him last month, a couple of weeks ago, and he would not have gotten the pension from Orange County, which is going to be worth how much to him, do you know?
It's difficult, but I mean, these pensions, when you're at their level, and I think, again, this is where labor people,
He made almost
working class-
$400,000 a year, I think.
A working class guy who does this many mistakes gets shown the door. This guy is allowed, and again, I don't know why, but it is an interesting juxtaposition that he's allowed to stay there just long enough to get vested, to get that 3rd pension, while the agency, by all accounts, is basically at a crossroads. We don't even know if that agency is going to exist in 6 months.
Okay, David, in L.A., they've got their own problems. What's going on there?
Well, there's a history of problems, as there is with the OCFA. There's a history of problems with the Los Angeles Fire Department, namely in past years, multiple discrimination and bias lawsuits. We, the Angelino taxpayer, have spent tens of millions of dollars settling these cases. And of course, there's controversy over response times. And now the latest thing is that there has been some sort of recruiting process that, according to Eric Garcetti, Mayor Eric Garcetti, has been fatally flawed with mismanagement and nepotism, as far as one particular captain, Johnny Green, a 24-year vet at LAFD. He was doing these training courses, bringing in his own folks as far as family members and friends of the firefighters. You know, every so often you have a new recruiting class, and they're understaffed at LAFD, but there were thousands of people who passed written tests and were eligible to go into the new class. And there was this crazy thing. There was something like the LAFD said, well, paperwork wasn't received in this 1-minute warning time we've given you, so they've all been dismissed. So lo and behold, you have 70 recruits who are in the new class. 25% of them, Rick, 25% of the 70 recruits are family members of existing firefighters who are already there. So Garcetti
There must
said,
be a firefighting gene. You're just good at it.
well,
right?
but Garcetti, then there could be, but Garcetti said, look, this is crazy, this can't happen. He hired the RAND Institute to do a tremendous investigation, and they're looking into this. They're going to have the results by the end of this summer, I believe. Of course, there's a union president, Frank Lima, who was all over Garcetti saying he's crazy and this is all politics. I did talk to Garcetti's office, and forgive me, I don't have my reading glasses. I can't see a thing unless I staple them to my forehead, but if I hold this long enough, he told me, quote, we are committed to improving and reforming the LAFD and hiring of a recruitment process and hiring the best candidates that will shape the future of the department. Basically, what he's looking for is oversight, accountability, and diversity.
So we'll
in the
be
department.
watching for that report.
Absolutely.
And see what it says. Okay, Joe, we just sadly saw the passing of Tony Gwynn, a guy who, great baseball player, Hall of Famer, and truly a Mr. SoCal. Born in L.A., reared in Long Beach, start on their basketball team, and then, of course, fame and fortune in San Diego. Right. You worked in San Diego for a long time. You know Tony Gwynn. What are your thoughts on him?
You know, he was beloved by San Diegans of all stripes. They called him Mr. Padre. He was well known not only for his exploits on the field, where he was a Hall of Famer, of course, but also off the field. He was just a consummate gentleman off the field. He gave back to the community. And frankly, I think that his passing at age 54 of cancer is as sad as the untimely death of Charger great Junior Seau was tragic for San Diegans, and he'll be missed. Yeah,
David, when somebody of the caliber of Tony Gwynn passes, you hear what a great athlete, what a great player he was. You don't hear so much about what a great person somebody is. He was really somebody who impressed anyone who came across him.
He did so much for the community, for the team, for his teammates. He was exemplary. Joe put it so eloquently. I mean, as a Dodger fan, a lifelong Dodger fan, we hate everyone in the National League West. You could not help but admire this guy who always got a hit off the Dodgers. I mean, he had a lifetime nearly .340 batting average, almost caught Ted Williams for his .400 batting average in that strike-shortened season. But to simplify it, he was class exemplified. He was an amazing human being.
Roberto, any thoughts?
You know, I was stunned at his untimely death, 54, from smokeless tobacco, and it makes me wonder, there's so much attention paid to smoking tobacco. This, in a way, is potentially a wake-up call or a real open question about smokeless tobacco.
Maybe that's the last good thing he'll do, is really make people reflect on something that's a real pastime. Guys chewing and spitting in the dugout. Maybe that will soon pass away. Thanks very much, gentlemen. You can watch this show and past shows at rickreif.com. Segments of the show can also be viewed at pbssocal.org. My guests have been Jim Righeimer, Norberto Santana, Joe Perkins, and David Nazar. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on SoCal Insider.
SoCal Insider with Rick Reif is brought to you by the following. 5 Point Communities is a proud sponsor of PBS SoCal. 5 Point Communities is an independent real estate development company with assets under management across California. More information available at www.fivepointcommunities.com. Snell & Wilmer is a full-service business law firm with more than 400 attorneys practicing throughout the West and in Mexico. With offices in Los Angeles and Orange County, Snell & Wilmer celebrates 25 years in Southern California. Online at swlaw.com. Skits. In our technology-driven world where constant connection to electronic devices is a way of life, Skits tech cases keep your electronic cords and accessories portable and organized so you can stay connected. For more information, visit skitsproducts.com. A healthy future for you, your family, and your business is why Memorial Care Health System transformed healthcare. Our hospitals, physicians, and outpatient centers keep patients healthy and care for them when they're not. Memorial Care, one healthcare system leading the way.
Our innovations in medical imaging are mapping the future of healthcare. When we started, I believe we could compete with these giants in this industry. City National believes in ICRCO, and that's what makes the relationship work. City National is the way up for our business.